I'll give you a minute to set up. We're gonna start on our back. And if you wanted to put on a playlist of just really relaxing music, or just music you really love that is calming for you. If you're looking for a playlist from Spotify, I do have one called No Words Needed. It's one of my favorite Yin ones, so you're welcome to use that. Okay. And then just start to get comfy down on your back. Okay. We'll start in a supine butterfly shape. And if you want that extra support, or you just want to make this pose a little less intense or with less depth, you can always take pillows or blocks underneath your knees or underneath your thighs just to hold your legs up and kind of ease that feeling of gravity pulling you down to give you extra support. Otherwise, you're welcome to just allow your knees to splay out to the sides. And then bring your left hand to your heart and right hand over top of your belly. And start to feel the rise and fall of your breath. Notice the beat of your heart. And even though we're all practicing apart, can you start to tap into the sense of community? Even if some of the people we're practicing with tonight are strangers, that we're all still here holding space for ourselves, but also for one another. And as we move on this journey together, that we may start to get to know each other more, or share more. We might start to connect on a deeper level. But a huge portion of this practice is recognizing that we're not in this alone. That your experiences are mine and mine are someone else's. And that this human experience, it's the same for every single human. And it might have different characters or different players, different situations. But essentially, we all feel the same emotions. We all know what it is to go through a heartbreak. And we all know what it is to be bursting with joy. To sludge through the muddy parts of life. And to feel like we're just floating through others. But this is the human experience, the ups and the downs, the moving forward and backwards. And so know that whatever you're experiencing on your mat tonight, I promise you someone else is going through those same thoughts or emotions. And allow that to give you permission to just drop judgment, expectation. Allow that to just give you permission to move at your own pace and your own depth. Allow this next hour to be for you. Before we start to move, can you send some compassion to yourself for this practice? That however your body decides to show up today, to just respond with kindness and care. And gently begin to bring your hands to the outer edges of your knees and help to guide your knees up through center. Heel toe your feet wide towards the edges of your mat. Arms may even come out to the sides or overhead. And then just gently drop your knees left. Lower your knees right. Notice the shift happening within the space of your hips, maybe even lower back, starting to release. The next time that you come up through center, heel toe your feet close together, and then just simply roll yourself over onto your right hand side for fetal position. Bring your knees in towards your chest, so there's a slight curl and round of your spine. And then you can always hug your knees in with your left arm. Allow your cheek or head to rest heavy into your right bicep. Now for this next pose, there are a couple of options, and I'll just slowly move you through them, and you can choose to pause at any of these options. If your knees are hugged in towards your chest, just gently begin to bring your knees so they line up with your hips and your spine becomes more neutral. Separate your knees so your top leg will stay as it is, and just begin to draw your bottom leg back so you start to create almost a pinwheel shape with your legs. So the inside of your left knee will rest on the ground, the outside of your right knee. Pick up your bottom foot, so your right toes will pick up towards the sky. And then take your left hand to catch the top of your foot. You can catch the inside edge or outside edge, whatever's most comfortable. And then you might start to feel a heaviness of your foot into your hand, and just allow your foot to draw down towards the ground. Head can still rest heavy onto your right bicep. For cattail pose, you're welcome to stay here. Or you can start to turn this into more of a twist and roll your left shoulder to the ground. Your left shoulder might never meet the mat, and that's okay. But you'll allow your head to just start to roll off of your arms, so the back of your head comes towards the mat and gazes up. Final variation for depth of cattail. You can always take your right hand onto the outer edge of your left thigh. Or you can play with straightening out your left leg and catch a hold of your calf or shin or even your foot. Now, with this all being said, for cattail, if grabbing a hold of your right foot, the knee that is bent back behind you, doesn't serve you, you can always just turn this into more of a twist at any point. Extend that leg out long and just roll both shoulders towards the earth. So lots and lots of variations of this pose. Try to find somewhere that supports you. Soften into any of the areas that feel like they're gripping or really tight. And allow your head to rest heavy either into your bicep or rooted against your mat. This theme of practice tonight is all about community and connection and how we're so much stronger together. But in order to find that care and compassion of others, we really need to cultivate it from within. And so can you allow each pose of this practice to just be a loving space from which to observe? That there's nothing that you need to fix here or you need to change. There's nothing that is wrong. It's just simply showing up for your body, Taking time out to nourish your mind, to unplug from the world. To reset the tension and stress that you've gathered over the day or week or month. And when we have all of this time to sit with ourselves, inevitably we'll also fill it up with all the things we aren't doing or we could do better. We'll fill it with judgments and labels. And so tonight, I ask that you just respond with compassion for those moments where you don't feel enough or you feel overwhelmed. Just simply come back to noticing your breath, noticing if your body needs a slight shift or adjustment. If you still have a hold of your right toes with your left hand, you just gently release the grip of your foot. Now with your right leg straightened down, left leg bent, you can gently just begin to roll yourself onto your belly and you'll actually land in half frog. So your left knee will be out to the side. If you have a hard floor like I do, you're welcome to always just take a pillow underneath the inside of your left knee. And then hands can cradle your cheek or your forehead onto your mat. Use this as a recovery pose. That's really just a transition. So allowing for any release of tension into your right hip and leg. A reset to just feel your breath press down in towards the earth. And then hollow out away. Maybe just a moment of pause. Gently slide your left toes down to meet your right. And then bring your chin to your mat for just a moment and take your left hand out to the side. So your left fingertips either line up with your shoulder, or you can bend your elbows so that your left fingertips point towards the short edge of your mat and your elbow is out to the side. Bring your left cheek towards the ground, or take your left cheek onto a pillow if that's more comfortable. And then take your right hand beside your right shoulder or rib cage. And as you press into your right hand, roll yourself over towards your left hip. So inside of your left arm connects to the earth, and your right hip starts to peel away. Legs can be crisscrossed, bent, stacked, or you can always bend into your right knee and plant your right foot onto the ground. Make sure wherever you've landed is comfortable. And if it feels like a lot of work to hold yourself in this shape, you can always grab pillows to just place in front of your body so that if you do start to roll down, your pillows will hold you up. Notice if there's a lot of tension in your left shoulder. Can you just soften it away from your earlobe and down your back? You allow the grip of your muscles to release. And we practice compassion by just understanding what we're going through and leaving judgment at the door. So just noticing what's happening with your body without feeling like you have to push through something. It's really just an act of kindness to yourself. At any point, if this feels like too much, you can always just roll back onto your belly and pause there and come back onto your left hip whenever you're ready. It's usually in those poses where we start to get really uncomfortable or it brings up some intense emotions. That's when we lose the compassion and the care. And you'll feel it in your body that you start to clench your hands into fists. You start to clamp your jaw together. So when you notice your physical body starting to tighten up, take a deep breath in through your nose and then exhale audibly out through your mouth and allow yourself just to sink in. Often all we need to step back into compassion is a reminder to just breathe. And that even here with whatever you're going through, there is space for you to breathe. Gently start to roll yourself back onto your belly. Take your hands down beside you, palms face up. You can bring either cheek to your mat and walk your feet out wide. Allow your entire body to just melt in towards the ground with a neutral spine. And then if you need movement, you're always welcome to rock your hips gently side to side. Or you can pick up your feet, bending your knees. Just drop your feet over to the left and over to the right. Once you come back through center, release the tops of your feet down. Bring your chin to your mat, plant your hands underneath your shoulders. Slowly start to peel your body away, coming into tabletop. As always, I like to give you that opportunity just to move, especially from being on your belly. So you can take hips side to side, forward or back. And just kind of wash and rinse out the fuzz or the stubbornness of our joints. Moving towards either half pigeon or deer, you are welcome to take this from tabletop and just slide your right knee forward. But if you prefer, you can always tuck your toes and lift up to a down dog for a couple moments if that feels good for the backs of your legs. Eventually, you'll bring your right knee towards your right wrist, right ankle to the left side of your mat, and then lower your left knee and top of your foot down. Walk your hands up to create some space into the front of your left hip. Make sure that your hips are square, and if they're not, you can always nuzzle a block in underneath your right hip. And then whenever you're ready, you're welcome to fold. Now, my friends that have some knee issues going on, if pigeon is not working for you today, sit over onto your right hip and just bend your back knee for deer shape. Okay, so back knee can come more forward or more out to the side, whatever feels best for you. Think of this as a pigeon with a bit of a broken leg. And then you're just gonna start to hinge forward as well. Grab any props, pillows, any blocks to hold yourself up if you need that extra support. If it feels like you're just trying to fight against gravity. And then as you just witness your thoughts in this pose, can you witness from a place of connection that these thoughts are not just yours, that there's probably someone else in this class tonight that's worrying about something similar, or that is really struggling with the shape or the sensations, someone else with the same limiting beliefs. And in recognizing that, can you just have more understanding that it's okay to feel the way that you do? A huge part of compassion is acceptance. Even when situations aren't ideal. So despite everything that might not be going right in this moment, can you just breathe in some acceptance for yourself? When it feels like a lot, to just sit with yourself and practice self-love and care and kindness. And it feels like a lot to hold, because it's harder to find the things about ourselves that we like than the things we don't. It's much harder to find that positive outlook than to find all the things that are going wrong. And so no, this isn't an easy practice, and it will at times get overwhelming. And so in those moments that it does, just simply start to breathe. Let go, focusing on the observation of body or thoughts, and just take 5 breaths. Count to 4 in and count to 4 out. If you have folded, you can just gently start to walk your hands back up in towards your body. All right, a little bit different. Roll yourself over onto your front hip. And then slowly start to turn your left toes up so that your left leg is long and your right knee splays out to the side. You might have to adjust yourself slightly to face the side of your mat. Now, if this feels like a lot for your right knee or hip, you can always add in that prop underneath just to add in support. Same goes for the left leg. If your knee wants to bend up, you can always take a pillow underneath. Start to walk your left fingertips down the inside of your left leg. And then as you inhale, reach your right hand all the way up and just start to peel it over. Now, if this feels like too much for the right hand, you can also take your hand to the base of your skull, or right hand can come onto your hip. You're just looking for that lengthening through the side body, kind of in those areas that we had talked about earlier that were pretty tight. If you find your head gets a little bit heavy and straining on the neck, you can always bend your left elbow and place your left cheek into your hand. Left elbow can land onto your thigh, or you can grab some pillows or blocks to place underneath. Notice if your right hip wants to lift up from the ground, just gently guide it back down so both hips are rooted. This won't be one of our longest poses, but see if you can still practice the dropping of judgment, or even just easing out of some of the expectation if you've noticed you've gone a little too deep from the start. I know this practice for me is often a bit of an ego lesson to recognize it's okay to just start at 70 or 80% of a pose and slowly come into it and try to push to the edge right from the start. Take 5 more breaths wherever you are. Allow them to be long, smooth, and deep. Knowing that you only have these 5 breaths left, can you really step into the quality of breath? Resist the urge to rush to the end. Just soften your shoulders away from your ears. Slowly, slowly, slowly at the end of your next exhale, begin to bring yourself all the way back up so that shoulders on over your hips, and then just walk your hands back and lean into your hands. You can always pick up your right knee if it's starting to feel too much for me out to the side. And this should feel like a nice release for the hips, just to simply lean back. You might even tilt your gaze up towards the sky. And then slowly bring your right knee back up. Walk your hands in and bend your left knee. Face towards the side of your mat and just wash your knees left and right. You might feel a really big difference between the right hip and the left. Know that that's okay. Whenever you're ready, find this pose on the other side. Right leg will start to extend out long. Left knee is bent. Always optional to add in props to the inside of your right leg to land your forearm or elbow onto. And then just start to lengthen out through that left side. So you might start with fingertips reaching over. You can always take your hand to your skull to open up the back of your upper arm, your triceps, or you can bring your left hand onto your hip. As best as you can, try to keep your shoulders to square to the side of your mat rather than rolling your left shoulder down. It's almost like it's stacking over top of your right. And if it's available, close down your eyes. And start to breathe lovingly towards yourself. To not just breathe for the sake of breathing, but to really soak in each inhale breath. And to truly just let go with each exhale. That the act of breathing can be an act of self-love because it gives us that pause before we want to react and maybe not be our best selves. It gives us the space to unwind from tension and stress, and it physiologically brings us out of our fight or flight mode, out of that stress response. So just a simple breath can actually be an act of self-love. I like to think of this human experience as billions and billions of parallel lines of these journeys that we're all on. And that we're all walking that same path, even if it looks different. That when you start to compare the experiences, they're all the same. And while we might be feeling things for different reasons, the feeling itself is human. The feeling of fear, anxiety, of love, of joy, of loneliness, of grief, of excitement, of apprehension. They're all human emotions. And so perhaps we, as we work towards dropping the judgment for why we feel a certain way and whether or not that makes us worthy, that we also start to offer that out. So if there's anything that's come up in this first half of the practice of maybe someone who wasn't their best self or an interaction you've had lately where you're really frustrated, can you see them beyond that emotion? Can you see that they're just a human doing the best that they can? Slowly, you can start to bring yourself out of this intense side stretch. And just start to walk your hands back, keeping the same shape with your legs. Lean back into your hands. Just allow your spine to release. If it feels better to plant your left foot, you're always welcome to do that as well. Now continuing to the second half of our circle. Walk your hands back in so that your shoulders land over top of your hips, and then turn yourself towards your bent knee. It should be your left knee. And you can start to bend your right knee out to the side, so you'll land into a deer shape. And then from deer, you can stay here, or you can move towards half pigeon, planting your hands in front of you. Lift your hips off the ground and just start to walk your right knee back behind you. So the left knee will slide towards your left wrist, left ankle is over towards the right side of your mat. Optional to take deer or pigeon, whatever is best for your knees on this side. And when you're ready, you're welcome to just begin to fold. Find a comfortable place to land your body. I chose this intention of compassion tonight because I think it's something that we all could use more of, but I also think the world could use right now, especially with very divisive topics, with people having very strong vocal opinions right now. It's easy to label things as good or bad or right or wrong, but the world is never so black and white. And we don't ever really understand someone's background story of why they act the way they do. And in fact, we often don't even recognize our own background story of what leads us to become frustrated in certain moments, or snappy, or not our best selves. And I think this time here on the mat is a time of forgiveness of some of those moments where it's okay to see ourselves in some of the deeper shadows, and to find love anyways, and to know that we're worthy anyways. And that sometimes is harder than offering it to other people, but it really is that step towards true authenticity in compassion for others, is finding it within first. So if you've been especially hard on yourself this week for amount you've accomplished, or what you haven't gotten done, or ways that you haven't shown up, can you just carve out some space in this pose to forgive that? So just let that go. If you have folded, you can just slowly start to walk your hands back up and towards your body. And then I'll leave you the option of how you want to release out of this. It might feel nice to step back to down dog if that's how you came into the first side. It might feel nice just to come down to hands and knees, or you can always come onto your seat and windshield wiper your feet side to side. So there's no right or wrong, just taking some time to release from where you were so you can fully step into these next couple of poses. Whenever you're ready, you just slowly start to lower yourself onto your mat and bring your right cheek this time towards the ground. Start to walk your right fingertips either out in a straight line from your shoulder or cactus your arm, elbow bend so your fingertips point forward. Left hand plants alongside your body to help roll you over towards your right hip. And if this ever feels straining for your neck, just slide a really soft pillow underneath your right cheek. Knowing you can add as many props to just fill gaps between your body and the ground as feels comfortable. And if you want more depth, you just roll more towards your right hip. If you need to slightly adjust the angle of your right arm, whether it's extended or cactus or even more of that diamond shape, know that it doesn't have to be exactly the same as on the first side. So it can be slightly different because each side of our body really does go through different experiences through the day, and to expect the same level on each side is really the same thing as expecting ourselves to be perfect. The body isn't meant to be symmetrical. And so just finding whatever it is that you need here. Yoga in itself is an act of compassion when done with care for our bodies. And so can you exude this compassion and self-love just simply through the expression of this shape? That in choosing the depth and the alignment that you have, it becomes an act of self-care rather than fighting against your own body. And continue to use the cues your body gives you to do better when you have gotten distracted or when you've tightened and gripped. Just take a couple breaths and reset. If this practice of releasing judgment, of cultivating worth and love and care feels challenging, know that it's not because you're doing it wrong. That being human, it's never meant to be easy. That you're not doing it wrong because it's hard. You're doing it right. And I think we need to start changing that it's ever meant to be easy in the first place. And just recognize that all of this is a work in progress. And it's meant to be challenging. These poses themselves are not meant to not have any roadblocks. They're meant to give you a mirror in which you can face yourself and start to forgive and start to love and start to care. So in these last few breaths on this side, can you find just that? A little more nourishment, a little more gentleness, a little more release. Gently roll yourself back onto your belly. And you can bring your hands underneath your cheek or underneath your forehead. And just find a sleeping or a half frog pose to recover in, sliding your right knee this time out to the side. Left leg can stay straight. Just lingering here for about a minute or so to release lower back and hips and spine. Moment to release those previous sensations and just step back into the now. Bring your left cheek towards your mat if your forehead or the opposite side is connected. And then scoop up your left cheek with your left arm and start to roll yourself to your left hip. So you're coming back into fetal position, but this time over onto your left side. Now knees can hug in really close if you just want a moment to open up lower back. You started in this shape or your second shape of class. So at any point, you're just welcome to start to move there. Knees line up with hips. You have that 90-degree bend of your knees. And then just start to separate your bottom foot away from the top. So your left knee starts to slide back. Left toes pick up. And then your right hand reaches back. So your head is cradled in your left arm or on a pillow. Now you can just hold your heel in close, or you can allow your foot to hang heavy into your hand. But there's really not a whole lot of tension in your body in this shape. You're welcome to stay rooted onto your left hip, or you can start to roll your right shoulder to the ground and bring this into more of a twist. Always optional to straighten out your top leg and use your left hand to hold it there. So this pose can come into quite a bit of depth, but it also can just be a pretty relaxing pose. At any point, you can always just turn it into a gentle twist and release any binds or grips you have of your feet or your legs. One of my favorite quotes that I feel like I've been coming back to a lot within these past few months is from Maya Angelou. And to paraphrase, she says, just do the best you can. until you know better. And then when you know better, do better. And that really is an act of compassion, that you're just doing what you can. And instead of beating yourself up for not knowing better or for any mistakes, you just simply move forward in doing better. That we can focus on the past all we want, but it will never bring us forward into healing. Especially with all the shifts and changes and seeing people in different lights right now. I think the best thing that we can do is to see ourselves first as human, and then offer that to both people we love and care about, friends and family, but also strangers. You need to make any final shifts in this pose if you want to go deeper, or you need a different variation just in the last few breaths. So you're always welcome to find that. And whenever you're ready, you can just gently start to release from your twist. Start to roll yourself back towards your left hip. You can always come back into fetal position if you feel comfortable to pause here. We're moving towards Shavasana. So you can always roll yourself onto your back at any point. It might feel nice to bring knees into your chest and just gently massage out your lower back. You're welcome to add in a pose, or if you want to close off in a different shape, just listening to what your body is craving tonight. And then we'll just bring ourselves into rest. And I think often we fill this Shavasana with so much thought, with worrying if we're doing it right, with waiting for it to be over some days. And can you use Shavasana as an act of self-love to just rest your tired bones, rest your tired heart and your tired mind? Because it's something that I've been hearing a lot of lately from this community, that people are really tired and exhausted and burnt out. It's been a lot to handle this year, and resting is equally as important as any other act of self-care. And that's why I'm so thankful that you joined me in Yin tonight, Because even though it is perhaps a slower, more gentle practice, it's just as necessary as those fiery, heart pounding movements or exercises of a vinyasa or even of a run. So, really just taking the time to rest. I'll leave you here for a few moments and I'll bring you out so that we can close off together. I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do you? Well, it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, the baffled king composing. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Take a deep breath in. A long exhale, breath out. You want to close off here in Shavasana, you're so welcome to. If you are ready to come out, you're welcome to roll to either side and just gently bring yourself up to a seat, landing your hands through heart center. We are all connected in this human experience. And so I hope that as you start to see yourself beyond the emotions and the situations and the thoughts, that you also are able to see those around you the same way. And to maybe just offer them some of that compassion that you wish you would offer yourself and that you're working on offering yourself. And I promise you, you'll see what a beautiful gift it really is. From the bottom of my heart. Namaste. Okay, thank you for joining me tonight. If you want to stay on, I will do a little discussion around a journal topic. If you do have to go, so much love, so much gratitude. And yeah, I'll see you all next week. If you have specific times that you'd like me to teach? I've been looking at adding in a couple, like 5 p.m.s for people after work that can't make the lives. Just email me, let me know so I can start to get a good idea of where I can add in more classes so that you can practice live. Okay. I'll give you guys a moment just to head out, anyone who's going out, and then I'll stay on for the rest of you. Cool. So this one this week actually comes from Dana. We had been talking, when was that? That was at a Park Hill yoga class a couple weeks ago. And Dana's a really big environmentalist, a really big activist. I hope I'm doing you justice here in saying this. You can stop me at any point. But she had mentioned that you said that you went to go talk to a city councilor, correct? Or MLA?
I've talked to a couple, yes.
Yeah. And just coming from a place of compassion, I think that's been a really divisive issue. I've seen things very, this is the way and this is wrong and you're wrong. And it just becomes very black or white. And I think the way that you approach that, and you're welcome to share, I don't want to put you on the spot, but it just came from a place of, understanding. And then the response that you got was so different than what we normally get.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to share because I've been thinking about it a lot with community, and we're doing a global climate strike on Friday. I've been involved in it for over a year, and Calgary, I don't want to say it has been challenging, but I will say what I've been doing mostly with these wonderful kids, it really has energized me and given me a sense of community. So what Lauren is talking about is, I thought, how am I ever going to talk to our provincial government about this, knowing, how polarized things seem. So I just went on the bio for these MLAs I was talking to. So you start with common ground and just talk a bit about who they are. And it was a female, and I, kind of started by asking her how it was for her being a young female in politics these days. So, they are people too, and we may not see eye to eye, but I think that's the challenging part for all of us. And it was a good lesson, because my starting point was, my goodness, how am I ever going to talk to this person? And will they ever listen to me? Really listen? And that really, I kind of broke the ice. I'm not saying I convinced them to come climate strike with me, but
no, but I so appreciated when you shared that with me. And I think it's something that we can all do, whether, it's an MLA or it's a friend or it's a family member. When we do have those differences of opinion, or we're being, really judgmental towards someone, is also to recognize they're human, they're going through a lot too. Even think about a lot of people not wearing masks and all these, anti-mask videos that are coming out about people causing scenes. And it's like, you have to wonder what is happening in their life that they're, acting in this way. And to have some compassion that there's probably a lot more beneath the surface. And it's so easy to be judgmental. And that's to a complete stranger, but we do it, even before this happened. Eric was like, I'm going to run to the grocery store to get stuff for dinner. And he didn't finish it in time. So I didn't eat before this. And, I was kind of sitting there frustrated, you should have just told me you weren't going to have this in time. And that's like, you were offering to make me dinner. Maybe I just need to not be so frustrated with that, and realize that you did the best you could. And, maybe the lines were long, maybe you got distracted with something, but end of the day, it's not life or death. And it's something so small and it's just a shift of perspective, right? So if you wanted a journal question, really just looking at where you judgmental to yourself and to others, and how can you switch that around? Whether it's the way you talk to people or yourself, or how can you just start to see like someone beyond their anxiety, beyond their fear, beyond their anger, because people aren't just angry. People are angry because something's happened to them. You know, you don't just walk around the world angry. So to see someone as their emotions are just an output of whatever they're feeling inside, and that's got to be heavy to hold as well. So when we start to see people as that, offering them a little compassion goes a really long way.